Hey guys, it's JVL and Sarah. Say hi,
What's up,
Sarah.
guys? I say hi. I know.
It's Secret Pod Day, and so to you, our next level friends, we have a banger of a Secret Pod. Yeah. Did you like it, Sarah? Did you think it was a good show?
I think it's actually a particularly good show, especially if you're interested in what's happening on the right and the future of the right, and why the Heritage Foundation feels the need to make sure that everybody knows they're still cool with Tucker Carlson, even though he's hanging out with Nick Fuentes. They want to make sure, guys, it's all good. So we have a good long episode about, well, we do some news up at the top, but in the back, just for you, if you subscribe, the future of the right. Is it Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and Marjorie Taylor Greene? Or is it Don Jr., Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance? Who knows?
And we're going to start you out with a little bit of socialism talk. Here's the show. Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my best friend, Sarah Longwell, publisher of the Bulwark. Sarah, how are you?
What's up, man? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. I would like to talk to you. We're going to talk a little Halloween later, but I want to start by talking about socialism because I'm about to lose my damn mind.
In a pro-socialist way or an anti-socialist way? What lay out for me? This is making me nervous.
I understand. So I think it is safe to say that after Zoran Mamdani is elected mayor of New York next week, we will hear roughly 75 gajillion complaints about socialism. The Democrats are socialists. How dare they be socialists? Look at the socialism. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
Okay. You probably did not see, and I say this because I did not see until yesterday, a news item about the federal government's new partnership with Westinghouse.
Okay.
Did you see this?
No, but now I know where you're going.
So the federal government has entered into a partnership.
Yep.
With Westinghouse and the two parent companies which own Westinghouse, Cameco and BAM, which stands for, I think, Brookfield Asset Management. And the deal is, okay, follow me. The president wants to build nuclear reactors. Okay. The United States government is looking to make an infrastructure type investment in building nuclear reactors. Okay. The United States government is going to spend $80 billion on this. Okay. All these things are within the normal parameters, basically, of how government operates. The United States government has selected Westinghouse to build the reactors. Okay, well, now we're a little closer to, isn't this picking winners and losers? In exchange for giving these contracts to Westinghouse, in addition to paying them to build the stuff, the government is also extracting a profit participation clause where they're going to take 20 cents out of every dollar Westinghouse makes. And in January of 2029, if the total market value of Westinghouse Corporation is in excess of $30 billion, the United States government can force them to conduct an IPO in which the government is given 20% of the shares of the entire company.
Get out. Those are the terms?
Those are the terms. It will be worth more than $30 billion because
the government can decide if it's going to be
right.
Oh my God. So, I didn't know that.
I understand that. Look, I think rent control is bad. I think that it is unlikely that having 5 city-owned grocery stores in New York City will do anything meaningful. I'm a little more concerned about the federal government walking around saying, we want to build this and we're going to give this company taxpayer dollars and then we think we're going to take a share of the company too. We're going to own that company. And this isn't the first time. They did this with Intel. They own 10% of Intel. They have a golden share. I mean, the government's deal with U.S. Steel is that the president has to personally sign off on any salary negotiations that the company, which is now U.S. Steel, conducts with its workers. That's the level of state control. That's socialism! Ah!
It's not capitalism. It is literally seizing the means of production.
Literally! And so what I need help from you is because we are going to have as I said, 11 gajillion chin-tugging pieces, especially from the anti-antis, about, oh, well, I mean, I would, look at these terrible people, these and I can't support them because they're just socialist. Donald Trump is doing actual, and in fact, the Wall Street Journal has just said out loud, oh yes, Donald Trump's model is China's state-run capitalism. I'm sorry, it's not state-run capitalism. It is national socialism. Calling something state-run capitalism is a rebrand because National Socialism has some uncomfortable connotations, historically speaking.
Well, also state-run capitalism is an oxymoron.
Yes!
It's like jumbo shrimp.
Yes!
It's like, you can't have state-run capitalism.
So I'm losing my mind ahead of time because I know what's going to happen the minute the race is called for Mamdani. And we're going to hear nothing but, socialism, socialism, socialism from the people who are all either all on board with Trump's socialism, or basically willing to tolerate it. Because that's the big socialism that's happening.
Yeah. This is a great take. Totally true. I 100% agree with it. And I will, the only, let's see, if I have any pushback, it's going to be that I sort of feel like Mamdani's socialism is not the thing that I object to even that much. Because sort of the socialism stuff that he's doing is more kind of silly. It's like small ball stuff.
Yeah.
And this is one of those where it's like, let's see how he governs. Because he's going to get into office and realize, oh my goodness, affordability issues in this city are deeply difficult to tackle, and my ideas don't come close to scratching the surface on how we do this.
New York is an affordable place to live is a sentence never uttered by anybody ever.
Yeah, right. And so, I think it's one of those things where I have on Mamdani, I'm a little bit like, let this young man get in there and see what he's dealing with. It's all fun to be like, yes, we make all this stuff free, until you actually sit in a seat and go, oh, I see why this is not doable, or I see why this is, not going to work. Okay. My bigger issues with Mamdani are around his past, the way that he has talked about Israel, and the way that he has comported himself on that issue. More like
hasn't been good.
He's an activist class.
Yeah.
Like, I protest on college campuses. And it's like, I am neither, but he's a really good, this is where I saw Andrew Sullivan. Sorry, this is, there's 2 points I want to make on the Mamdani thing that are a little discourse on the discoursey, with apologies. One is Andrew Sullivan did this weird drive-by on us last week and I read his Substack, but he said that the Bulwark and MSNBC crowd were going to be thrilled by Mamdani, or he used some phrase. Do you remember what it was?
I don't.
No.
Something about self-righteousness or something like that.
Yeah.
The idea of it was like, going to be super chesty and happy about Mamdani.
Which is just
like, I don't think
that's where we are.
I don't think a single person at the Bulwark has been like, yeah, that Mamdani, that's great. That's awesome.
Well, what's funny is that I read his Substack, and he makes exactly the same points we make, which makes his criticism all the more disingenuous, because the thing about Mamdani that everybody needs to take away is talking about affordability, being charismatic, listening to people, understanding the mediums that young people are engaging with. Like, those are the lessons Democrats need to learn about communications and about the messages right now that people want to hear. And so Mamdani, and so Sullivan's giving him credit for this in his piece. He's like, well, he's a really good communicator. And honestly, his like facile socialist ideas, but he's sort of like, he literally has the exact same opinion of him that we do, which is, we all find his from the river to the sea activism. I mean, I find it disqualifying. But there's like a range of people here at the Bulwark that ranges from anti-Mamdani to anti-Mamdani. and I'm not sure that there's anybody who's pro Mamdani. So it's like, it's such a funny way for Sullivan to do like a drive-by attack on us. Like, Andrew Sullivan, if you're listening, we have the exact same opinion on Mamdani at the Bulwark that I think
Andrew
do.
Sullivan is a silly man who argues in bad faith. I can't believe it. You're kidding.
I'll never give up on Andrew. I just read him too much in my formative years.
He was always this guy.
No, I know.
He was even this guy when he agreed with you. That's the thing to realize about Andrew, is that like he will always agree with you like 50% of the time, and he'll still be that bad faith, silly person when he's on your side that he is when he's not on your side.
Well, I like how he writes. And okay, just you and I don't have to get into a whole thing about
that's
Andrew.
That's fine.
The second piece of discourse on the discourse is that yesterday there was this news story going around that Bill Kristol had endorsed Mamdani. And I was like, oh God, because I listen to Bill all the time, and I know how he feels about Mamdani, which is he's anti, and he hates Cuomo, and he finds the business community's lack of creativity at bringing some normal person to the table, and the fact that they're going back to this sex pest, corrupt thug. He's like, no, they should be embarrassed about that. And so somebody, pressed him like a kid on like, well, if you lived in New York, would you vote for Mamdani? And he was kind of like, yeah, because I'm so annoyed about the Cuomo stuff, whatever. Guys, that's not an endorsement. Okay. That's not what that is. And so like Jonah Goldberg is like, he's like, I consider Bill a friend, but this, I do not understand how he could do this. And it led to like a whole anti from a bunch of these bad faith people who even clearly didn't read it. Because if you read it, you see what Bill is doing, which is basically like, I'm so annoyed about the Cuomo stuff that, I'd vote for Mamdani, and then he's like, even though he's bad on this, I don't agree with him on this, which I think is like, okay. By the way, I love when people
are looking for any excuse to say that they're not us.
I know.
That's all it is.
Part of I just want to say this as a funny thing. I didn't respond to this because why? You guys told me not to, basically, but I wanted to. But so I'm going to say it here because I have to get it off my chest, which is this. I love when people do things like, I consider Bill a friend, but this is red. This is why I'm not them. I just got to say, nothing says friendship like criticizing somebody in public and not talking to them about it in private. That's what real friends do. They criticize you on Twitter in bad faith.
Boy, howdy. All right. So the socialism thing, just to tell me very quickly, what is my cope strategy? How will I prevent myself from having my head explode scanner style?
I've got a solution for this. Okay. I've got a solution for this. Take your tear down that ballroom, Mr. Trump energy and push it into, is this socialism? Because I actually think you are 100% right. Don't write one triad about it. Write many and have it be, we should be banging on these conservatives about their fake condemnation of the DSA socialism, which is like college level socialism of Mamdani, versus the entire corrupt might of the United States seizing the means of our technological production to pursue strategies for stealing their returns, to pump them up using the federal government, using taxpayer dollars, and then taking the returns back. That should have conservatives agitated, and you with your everyday writing energy, your 2,000 words JVL, I'll read every single one of those triads.
Well,
I'll read them all.
You're in luck for today because I got you 2,000 words.
No, I don't want one Friday triad. I want them all next week.
Okay, I can do that. I will say, and I will leave this to you to. We don't have to make this a thing because this is we have a lot of things to talk about today, and this is a larger discussion. But it seems to me that the stuff you and I are two sides of the free market coin. Mm-hmm. You are more of a laissez-faire Reaganite, Paul Ryan type. I am more of a neoliberal Clintonite type. Okay. Which is to say, I think I want more regulation than you want. I think that the government needs to, like, the externalities get created all the time within markets, and the government's job is to try to balance those externalities and remove them. But basically, again, you and I are arguing about like 20% on the margins of the same thing.
Yeah, although if I just can, because I don't, just if I can define my own economics, which is actually, it's less that I'm a Reaganite, although I do have some of those tendencies. It is more that I believe that people who create jobs, like, I think that we should have a dynamic economy. I believe strongly in innovation. I think we should have incentive structures that lead to more innovation, that allow people to get excited about starting a new business. I love small business culture. I love entrepreneurialism. And so for me, actually, it's less, because Reagan kind of draws these like trickle down, big business, whereas like that's not really the economy anymore. And so for me, it's much more, can you I think there should be, we don't want people dumping sewage into the water, right? I'm not anti there being,
right.
That being said, I think we have over indexed on the kinds of red tape. Like I think I'm not all in on abundance, but I'm here on this idea of, one of the reasons people like Trump is because they think he's just doing stuff. Many of them extra legal. But
he's taking a 10% ownership in Intel.
But people, I think right. But there does have
doing
to be
stuff.
I think finding a sane regulatory place is something that matters to me.
Yeah. So anyway, you and I are very close on this. I think we disagree on like some prudential things around the margins. It strikes me that there is very little constituency anymore for the stuff you and I like.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that the energy now is between two different forms of socialism. And there is the European style democratic socialism, which I think is very attractive to a lot of people, left of center. And on the right, they're attracted to the Chinese style state socialism.
Yeah.
Where the idea,
as long as they're in charge.
Well, that's the key, right? Yeah. It's state command economy stuff is what they want, but only so long as they are in command of the economy. And the minute you put some brown person with a funny name in it, they're like, Solyndra!
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do remember Solyndra?
Yeah.
I do.
And that's the future. Okay. We need to talk about the elections, because this is our last secret pod before the elections. We are going to have a live stream on the elections Tuesday night. It's going to be a big old thing. People should tune in. It's going to be great. I'm very excited about it.
Wait, and just to be clear, we're going to have a bunch of the gang is going to be there to do the first hour, and then we're going to do a live TNL.
Everybody goes live at 8, and then we come on at 9. It's going to be great. I'm quite excited about it. Where are you on this? So you've got focus group stuff coming on Virginia this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you are deeper into polls and stuff than I am. Tell me what your sense is of what the state of play is. What are you expecting? What are you looking for? And what did the focus group people tell you this week about Virginia?
So we talked specifically this week.
Sorry, that's like 9 very large questions.
Yeah, but I'll answer all of them. This is where my head is. I'm excited about the elections because this is much more this is my wheelhouse right now. Yeah. When you just get into like the pure nerddom, this is where I get happy. But part of what's interesting is that I think they're going to be pretty different races. I think that Virginia and New Jersey and New York are going to give us sort of 3 different stories. And it's going to be interesting in what they layer up to as a top level story. And I think there's going to be some push and pull around people wanting to say, well, Mamdani's the future. And other people, probably more like us, saying, no, Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger are the future. Now, I'm most interested in the Virginia race for a few reasons. In fact, it would go Virginia. My ranking would be Virginia's the most interesting, then New Jersey, then New York, because I don't think
Virginia has a pure MAGA proxy on the Republican side in the way that Jersey doesn't really.
That's right. And also the down ticket now has become much more interesting because, and so who we talked to in the focus group were ticket splitters, people who were easily going to vote for Abigail Spanberger and people who were going to vote for Miaris. the Republican Attorney General because of what the J. Jones text messaging scandal. And it was interesting to find out sort of what kinds of people these were. And basically they're normie-ish Dems. Now, some of them had voted for, what's his futz? Why am I blanking on his name? Who's the current governor?
Glenn Youngkin.
Glenn Youngkin,
Republican
thank you.
hope.
Not anymore. And actually, the part of what's really interesting, so I have one of these grizzled, his name's Jeff Shapiro, not Josh Shapiro, and Shapiro spelled a different way, but Jeff Shapiro is the guest, and he's one of these grizzled, like, I worked for the Richmond Times-Dispatch for 40 years, and I know everything in
every single county in the...
Yeah. I love when we get the really hyper local guys
awesome.
on the focus group, because they just have a lot to say. And especially when there are newspaper people, they won't get as much into the predictions. But listening to these voters, the like extent to which they started from a place. These are really swingy voters. And I shouldn't say normie Dems. I should say center independents. But there were a few of them that were very like, I don't like to have to vote for Republicans. Like, don't make me vote for a Republican. I'm mad I have to vote for a Republican for AG because of what J. Jones did. And I just can't, get on board with that. This was the thing I was going to say about when you say a pure MAGA proxy and Winsome Earl Sears, there was a lot of voters in this who were like, I want to like her because on paper, she's Black, she's an immigrant, she was a Marine. And they all just basically said, and then we saw her behavior and she's a lunatic. And like one of the Black women in the focus groups was just like, nope. Can't act like this.
Did any of them vote for her for lieutenant governor? Isn't she the lieutenant governor? Isn't that an elected position? Or am I misremembering that?
I think not. Ooh, now I'm not sure about that. Because they voted... some of them had voted for Youngkin. Like there were Youngkin voters in the group, but they didn't seem to know much about her until she was running for governor.
Gotcha.
And so there was like some people just saying, look, I wanted to like her. I gave her a shot. But she's a crazy person, like an obvious crazy person. And so I just think that like, I'm looking to see whether or not Virginia, Abigail Spanberger goes double digits plus. Because I think, and maybe not, but like if you're watching the turnout right now, this is what's interesting to me. Something is changing in the country around how we perceive turnout. So in the 2024 election, so for a long time for Democrats, high turnout was good because a lot of those marginal voters that just turned out in a general election, but never vote in off-year elections, they were Democrats. That's not true anymore. The high turnout of 2024 portended a Trump victory because he's the one bringing in these marginal voters now. Turnout in Virginia right now is extremely high. Like they've been early voting. In fact, they were early voting so early that the J. Jones thing hadn't dropped yet and people had already voted. I mean, that J. Jones thing dropped weeks ago and people were already early voting. Many people had already cast their votes. And so there's an incredibly, like I follow Chaz Nuttycombe, who I think is really good on this. And he's been following the early vote tallies in Virginia. And I again, we don't know. This is why tracking early voting is a very imprecise thing because you don't know who they're voting for. Just because they live in places that you perceive to be more blue or more red, you just don't know.
And you don't know the tempo effect. You don't know if these are people who otherwise, like this is as you say, it's voting behaviors. And so you don't know, are these new voters or are these people who otherwise would have voted a week from now, right? Like, it's very, very interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just thinking all this through.
So my last thought, though, is that I'm gonna take the position myself, and we'll just see if I'm right or not, that the high level of turnout is an anti-Trump corrective, like anti-Trump, anti-Youngkin. I think the 4 years of Youngkin he got elected as a moderate and governed MAGA and got more MAGA as things went along. And so I think that there is, and Abigail Spanberger, I was wondering for her if the fact that she kind of took a pass on really coming down hard on J. Jones, the fact that she she basically said it's up to the voters. I'm not gonna. She didn't re-endorse him, but she also didn't throw him under the bus. And I was like, is that gonna hurt her? I've decided not. I think just listening to the voters, it felt to me like she had really uncoupled herself, and that people find her broadly acceptable and broadly. So I don't mean that in a, they just kind of, but like they think she's good. Like, yep, she seems good. And she's talking about affordability. And I think the Doge stuff really, really hit Northern Virginia super hard. Yeah. And people are pissed. So anyway, I am most interested in that race because I think if she comes out of there,
even with high turnout, you think she could do very well in high turnout.
I do,
which is again not what we would sort of expect, right? Like that says turnout is shifting. Okay,
so I'm interested just to see what the dynamic is there. That'll be, and it's an interesting one from a Virginia standpoint. Virginia's got a couple other things. They are one of the states, and she recently said she would be for it. They're talking about the mid-cycle redistricting.
Yep.
And so, playing power politics right out of the gate, that would be interesting for her. So that one's interesting. And then for Mikey Sherrill, I guess what I'd like to see, you talked about this when we did the focus group pod, and I like you.
How are the numbers on that show? Did it do okay?
Yes, it did. You know how it did.
Like I don't know. No, I don't know how I have not looked at all. Do people like it when I'm on the focus group?
And people who talk to us, people who share their opinions in the comments certainly liked you on the focus group.
How about on the numbers though? The download's pretty good for
it depends on what people want to get out of the focus groups. Do you want a proxy for yelling at the voters? Turns out lots of people do. You fulfill that need for them. Do you want somebody who, is deep in the state's districts and all of those things? Who can
feel like I was able to give that too. I feel like I hit all quadrants.
Yeah,
I thought that was really
great. You were a great
performance by me. I'm just looking for you to say, JVL, honestly, maybe the best episode of the season.
It was strong.
You could say maybe. You don't have to definitively say.
Well, also it was weirdly, people were still mad at the voters in that episode, even though I thought, well, this is what, I guess it's just having you on. People get into the posture of wanting to be mad at the voters, where they were like a pretty swingy, undecided, thoughtful, not idiot, or I found them perfectly palatable compared to some of what I hear. But not you.
You love all God's children.
I do. I think that Mikey Sherrill needs a big performance. Like what you really want out of this, what I'm hoping for, is that she's been running much closer in the polls with Chitterelli, and I would like to see her break away and do better than all the backsliding we saw. Like +5s, not good enough. I want her to get into a +7 or 8.
Okay, that's what you want, but what do you think she's going to get? I mean, do you have a sense? Because I don't have any sense.
I do think that the Trump backlash is going to be real. Like I want to see a real corrective. It should be. And I think this is the thing is if that energy is not there with his poll numbers where they are, with the frustration that I know people have, with here's the thing for Democrats right now. And I worry about Mikey a little bit being so close to New York because I think she's probably catching some of the Mamdani, like normies are like, well, we don't want Democrats, and they lump them together. And I think that could be a problem for her in a way that it's not impacting Abigail Spanberger. I don't know. Do you catch any of that since you live in both cities?
Both
New Jersey and New York.
I don't. I think that what it is just isn't a ton of excitement for her. Like this is the thing. And this is a race where if you told me it was +8, I'd say, yep, I can see that. If you told me she squeaks it out +3, I could also see that.
I could see
I won't be surprised either way. I would be surprised either more than 8 or less than 3. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I do. It makes perfect sense. It just for me, like, because she is sort of a very baseline Democrat, what you can measure against her is the anti-Trump backlash.
Yeah. But it's harder because Chitterelli isn't a pure Trump surrogate, right? This is the other, he's much more Youngkin-ish in that way. I mean, he's nothing like Glenn Youngkin, like WASP versus Italian. But all All right, listen, we got to talk about Nick Fuentes and the Heritage Foundation and Tucker Carlson and all that stuff. And it's going to be a little spicy, but we're going to do that on the other side. Just come and join.
You're going to love it.
It's a good show. It's a good show. Come be with us.